Hello, everyone. Hello, how are you? Today, I want to talk harsh realities, and I'm going to start off by sharing a little story. My harsh reality is that, my optometrist told me this about wearing my specs more often for long distance, especially. So I'm going to take them off because I actually don't need them for short vision, but I need them for when I drive and when I watch them. And quite frankly, it's a harsh reality that I've been avoiding. I've had these specs for a while, but I don't really like wearing them. But of course, it puts strain on the eyes when you don't do what you do to support your eyes. So I'm taking them off because I don't need them for short distance, need them for driving and so on. But I just wanted to demonstrate that I am a little bit resistant to the reality of wearing specs. But then there's other realities going on in life. And as I work with, clients, many of them are coming and talking to me about the reality of the job market at the moment. And the job market is tight. We are still in the middle of a pandemic and still in, GFC times. And so the reality of that is that what it does is it brings fear out. And even companies are treading with caution. So they're taking longer to make decisions. So, there's many clients of mine that are going for interviews, but then they find that they have to wait for these decisions. And it's so frustrating. And I get that. That is the harsh reality of what happens when companies have been through this big up and down in the past year or the past 18 months. They are going to take their time making decisions. They're nervous and tentative about wrong hires, because here's the thing: when you hire incorrectly or you don't hire the right fit or the right person, it becomes really expensive to rehire and to go back to market and try and that whole process again, right? So it's difficult. And so people don't necessarily want to do that. And so they are taking their time. And also the other thing that's going on for a lot of companies is that now more than ever, having the right culture fit is important, because people are coming out of very stressful times. Many people are still in very stressful times. Some people are challenged with working from home. Some are nervous about coming back into the office. There's a whole mix of emotions going on, and nervousness and tentativeness and a little bit of fear. And so when people bring in new people, they need to make sure they bring in people with compassion, people with understanding, people that are going to be collaborative and empathetic towards other people, So there's all of these factors that companies now have to consider. And so the whole hiring process is a little bit different than it used to be. And it's largely driven by this nervousness or this fear or this tentativeness of, stuffing up. As I said, it's expensive to stuff up when you're hiring, because it does cost a bit to go back out to the market and to find the best candidate for the role. So I get that people are facing this harsh reality, but there's a couple of things that you can do when you're going through the harsh reality of a tight job market. And so I want to share a couple of things that you could do. One of the most important is to actively work on your self-esteem and your energy, because people feel that. So when you're going for job applications or you're discussing roles with recruiters, or even if you get so far as to get a discussion with a hiring manager, people can feel your energy. They can feel it through the phone. They can particularly feel it through Zoom, because they can see your body language, can see if you're sitting upright, they can hear in your tones whether you're super confident, whether you're pretending to be confident because you're trying to make an impression, but underneath there's all this nervousness, there's tentativeness, there's even irritation that the process is taking so long. Don't ever think that you can fool people with your energy, because, human nature is such that we can feel and we can sense. And so if you're not actively managing your mindset and working on your self-esteem and working on keeping your energy uplifted, that's going to come across. And there are simple ways that you can uplift your energy, right? So getting out there in nature, going for a walk, playing with animals, they just bring a spark to your life. Meditation, quietening the mind down and allowing yourself to go into relaxation mode and even into visualization mode of what it is that you do want. Those are all really helpful tools and they're easy to do. It's not like you have to go and spend money on any of those things. You don't need to spend money on meditation. YouTube is filled with meditations, millions and millions. You don't need to spend money playing with a puppy and getting upliftment from animals. You don't have to spend money going for a walk or a run. So there are simple strategies you can do to keep your self-esteem elevated. The other thing you can do is talk to a friend, talk to a career coach, a counselor, a friend, a spouse, to the dog. I sometimes talk to my dog. When I feel that no one is listening to me, when I want to have a whinge, I have a whinge to my dog. So, and she kind of looks at me, the ears go up, but she makes me feel like attention to me. So it's fantastic. Use it, easy method. Or industry that maybe you wouldn't consider working in, but where they are hiring. And some of them are certainly in retail. There's a lot of hiring going on, especially in the supermarket space, in warehousing, logistics, all of those. So, I have a neighbor who was a chef and obviously was impacted greatly with the whole hospitality impact during the pandemic. And I was chatting to him the other day, and he was saying that he went out and got a warehouse stacking job for the local, not local, but within the neighborhood, the Woolworths. And he said that he's really happy doing that. Started out having to do picking and so on, but ended up in like a stacking role. And he said he puts his headsets on and gets going with the stacking. It's improved his fitness because he's lifting, not huge amounts of weight, but he's lifting things and packing and stacking. And he said just the people he worked with are really friendly, great environment. And so he's released the attachment to the title of what he used to do. And he's actually doing something different. And he's really happy. And the other thing is, he says the money is great. So he's earning really good money. He's taking pride in being able to continue to support his family financially. And he said the biggest thing he learned from this was to release the attachment to titles, role titles. In the end, he said he's learned something about taking pride in any job, bringing yourself and your pride and your personality to any role. And I reckon that's a great attitude to have, because it means that you'll never start identifying yourself with the job title that you hold. There's something wonderful in being able to be free of that and simply take pride in doing an honest day's work. I really admire him, and that's why I shared this little story, because I was kind of blown away by that. And I have another friend who, she works in business development, but she often, when she's been between roles, she'll go and do temp roles, anything to make sure the money keeps coming in. And she says the thing that happens is that her self-esteem is elevated because she knows she can support herself. She knows she's not attached to titles. She'll do what she needs to do to make sure the bills are getting paid. But with that energy, she said, the moment she goes out and does a temp role, within days or weeks, she then lands the kind of role that she wants. So there's something about the way that energy works. And then the other thing you can do is reach out to your networks, reach out to former colleagues, former bosses, reach out to family members, to friends, and simply ask them, and reach out with authenticity. Don't try to cover up that you might be struggling or that you finding it difficult around the whole job searching thing. I've often found when people reach out, genuine authenticity with truth and really share what's going on for them, people step up. They are always willing to help. I think there is goodness in all of us, and all of us want to help other humans, other people. And so, but it's when people pretend or they try to posture, people can sense that as well. And yes, back to the energy again, people can sense that. And so they end up shying away from that. So reach out with genuine authenticity, share what's going on for you, and don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for help. Nothing wrong in doing that. And you'll find most people want to help wherever they can. So those are my tips for dealing with some of the harsh realities of a tight job market. Keep up your self-esteem. Consider industries or fields of work that maybe you wouldn't have considered before, and reach out to your networks and ask for help with an open heart and with genuine authenticity and truth. And as always, have a great day, stay positive, and have a wonderful week. Bye for now.